Hello and welcome back everybody to the Foodbuild factory, where today we're going to take a look at the Prime Patrol. That's the guy you can see on screen right now. And as always, I'm going to show you some gameplay in the first half of the video, and in the second half of the video, we're going to take a look at the perks, mutations, equipment, and everything else. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. What this time around we're going to take a look at is yet another hybrid build, something I haven't done for quite a while, and lately I just started to get back into a little bit. And in my example, not in my example, in my eyes, hybrid builds have always been kind of interesting in this game. Now, obviously, when the game came out and we didn't have access to legendary perk cards and everything, it was even more of a nuisance to put together a hybrid build where you're basically focusing on using two different weapon types. That's basically the broad description of what a hybrid build is, just because you didn't have access to so many perk points. But nowadays, with legendary perk cards, it's definitely doable without missing out on too much, in my eyes. And yeah, obviously there's always some opportunity cost. You could also just use your perk points in order to further maximize or min-max your character, which in all fairness would always be the better decision if you're going for just sheer results. However, if you just for some reasons, for like visuals or just personal preference, want to carry two different weapons and be sufficient with them, you can definitely do that. Now, the weapons we are going to take a look at on this occasion are a Gatling laser, an Ultracite Gatling laser to be more precise, and a automatic Ultracite laser rifle. Now, the Ultracite laser rifle is sadly and for some reason more or less just a weaker version of the laser rifle. I mean, it has a little bit more fire rate compared to the standard laser rifle, but to be honest, that doesn't really cut it usually. Overall, you're still missing out on some DPS in my eyes. Now, obviously, this is not something up to debate or something. There's definitive proof if you would go through it. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that overall the DPS on a regular laser rifle would be higher than on the Ultracite version. But overall, it still does some decent damage, and I managed to actually have a lot of fun with this weapon here. Now, we're killing some brothers here, Brotherhood soldiers. Now, this character, in terms of role-playing, is kind of like an ex-Brotherhood member, like that's where he got his Ultracite weaponry from, but yeah, that's basically it. Now, we are going to play in power armor, and one of the things that you probably noticed already is that we do use a automatic rifle in power armor, which in and of itself is already a very rare thing to see, just because, yeah, usually you see people use automatic rifles outside of power armor so they can use VATs, basically. Not that you can't use VATs in power armor. I have definitely done some power armor builds that utilize VATs in the past, but most people don't really like that just because the AP consumption really goes through fusion cores rapidly, that is. But that's not really up to debate here. We are going to not use VETs anyways, for the simple reason that one of our weapons would simply not be feasible with VETs, and I'm talking about our Ultracite Gatling laser, of course. That weapon just sadly doesn't really work with VETs. Now, obviously, you can use it here and there if you're, for example, fighting something like this bloatfly here, just so you can better home in on it. That's how sometimes I'm using VETs, but basically that's it. Like what you see there, 3 shots or so, and you're done. So yeah, that was kind of out of the question, and I wanted to be in power armor just because a heavy weapon can obviously benefit very much from stabilized. And yeah, that's how this monstrosity of a build here came together. In all fairness, it is not the most powerful build you can play with, obviously, but I found it really decent, and the damage output is great. Now, another thing here is that whenever I do hybrid builds, most of the time I try to find a combination that gives me more options than just using one of the weapons. Now, what I mean by that is go with one melee option and another ranged option, just so you can switch playstyles completely. and with the one you can spare some ammo, with the other you can just shoot ammo down range. Or I think you get the point, having one weapon type that has a high fire rate, another one that has more precision. But on this occasion here, there's not a whole lot of difference here. Like, both weapons perform rather similarly on paper. Like, they're both fast-firing weapons with relatively low base damage, but a high DPS just because they fire so rapidly. Now, the more precise we're getting with these weapons here, we have a quad ultracite laser rifle with limb damage and which breaks slower, so there's definitely room for improvement when it comes to secondary and third effects here. And when it comes to our Gatling laser, we have an anti-armor, faster fire rate version with 250 damage resistance while reloading. So in all fairness, both of these weapons aren't god roll by any stretch of the imagination. In my eyes, the Gatling laser definitely is our big boy here that we put out when we fight something like the Scorchfish we just did. The main benefit and the main reason why every now and then I want to use the laser rifle is that it has no spin-up time. So if you're facing multiple weaker enemies, it often is the better choice in my opinion, just because you're not having to always wind up your shots. Now, in all fairness, I never really had that much of a problem with the spin-up time on heavy weapons. Some people can't stand it, absolutely not, but yeah, that's just personal preference here. Now, another little tweak to the build, it's basically just a glitch that currently is in the game, and yeah, maybe you have seen that from Angry Turtle. Basically, what's going on here is we do have a ultracite Gatling laser with charging barrels, which significantly tones down the fire rate of the weapon. Now, if you go for DPS alone, this is not the best choice. You want the fast barrels on your weapon, just because you can dish out way more damage in closer time. But in terms of ammo consumption, I actually prefer the charging barrels a lot of the time, just because they make it way more easy to control how many shots you get off, and you still have great DPS. So yeah, that's why I decided to go with the charging barrels. And where I'm going with this is basically just that currently, if you have a faster fire rate version of a Gatling laser or ultracite Gatling laser with charging barrels, the game kind of flips out, and the first few shots are just way faster than they should be. And in most situations, fighting ghouls, super mutants, whatever, these few shots that come so rapidly, they basically are enough to take down pretty much every standard enemy. And that's nice here. Now, the good thing about the... Oh, hell, this guy has a lot of energy resistance, it looks like, so for this guy we probably take out the bad boy here. I can't remember having such a tough time with glowing ghouls in the past with this build here. So yeah, not quite sure what's going on there, but yeah. Here we can see against weaker enemies, the laser rifle definitely has its place. Now, in all fairness, this whole build is very heavy on ammo consumption, so that's definitely something you want to have a look at. But for me personally, I didn't really find it too crazy. Now, at the moment, I am on a private server on a custom world where it doesn't really matter anyways, because I can just craft unlimited ammo as is. But even in my main on my main world, I found that yeah, fusion cells, you can craft them relatively well in bunch. You definitely have to rely on crafting though with this kind of build. I personally haven't found it too good of an option to just farm it with daily ops, or to farm ammo with daily ops or expeditions. It's a little tedious, and most of the times you even get out of a daily op or a expedition with less ammo than you invested into it. So you definitely want to rely on crafting. However, I have ammo factory permanently integrated into the loadout as it is at the moment. So yeah, there's that to combat that, and what you would like to do ideally is just swap an ammo smith and super duper, obviously, whenever you're crafting ammo. Crafting ultracite fusion cores is actually pretty efficient in my eyes. Like, you can definitely craft a bunch with relatively little effort. And when it comes to fusion cells, they also, like, if you have maxed out Ammo Smith and Ammo Factory, you can craft like 500 a bunch or something like that. So yeah, it's not that hard to get a lot of them in my eyes if you are a high level player. But yeah, that's all about efficiency here. When it comes to condition on the weapons, both of them tend to break fairly quickly, but we do have both Luck of the Draw and Gunsmith, so we can keep up with our weapon condition pretty well. And especially since you have two different weapon types to rely on, it's not like you're going to run out of options during a fight in most situations. Like, you probably always have enough condition on one of your weapons left to finish whatever fight you're just trying to get into. And yeah, that's pretty much it. There's not a whole lot to say here. I really like the handling on both of the weapons. That's definitely one of the cooler things here, and there really is a nice feel to it just because it's such a light show. You know, like whenever you fire the laser rifle, you really have a lot of lasers going on. When it comes to the Gatling laser, where's the guy gone? When it comes to the Gatling laser, this is not the case anymore, but that's just because I do have the beam focuser on, which kind of makes the lasers invisible for some reason, which is kind of a cool effect. I mean, it's a glitch, but I actually kind of like it. It's just, yeah, if you don't want to have that, just take off the beam focuser. By no means do you need it, to be honest. Like, the weapon is very precise, has good hipfire accuracy without it. Anyways, it's even a good chunk lighter, so yeah, in all fairness, you could definitely live without it if you wanted to. I basically mostly just wanted this here for the overall looks of the weapon. Gives it a little bit more of a finished look, but that's basically it. And yeah, other than that, you can see I just freely swap between the weapons, like, yeah, whatever I feel like at the moment. As I said, there's not a particular reason why you would use one over the other. It's just for your personal preference. The only exception is that when tougher targets arise, like the glowing ghoul earlier, I tend to go over to my Gatling laser, just because it's a little more ammo efficient. Not that you couldn't kill these enemies with your laser rifle. It could easily be done just because you have such a good ammo capacity, but yeah, that's basically it. As for my legendary effects of choice, anti-armor and faster fire rate for the Gatling laser was pretty obvious. I think that's just a good combination overall. And when it comes to the laser rifle, ultimately I would have probably preferred quad faster fire rate, braking slower. But yeah, the braking slower effect was definitely nice to have here, and ultimately that wasn't really something I desperately needed. Faster reload would have been cool, but since we have such great ammo capacity, it's not really necessary. And as for secondary effect, limb damage is something I definitely am not too keen on. It just happened that, yeah, I had this quad limb damage, breaking slower weapon, and didn't feel like re-rolling it a thousand times just to get the exact same roll I wanted. And yeah, for once, having a limb damage is kind of a cool thing here. It actually has pretty good limb damage now that the effect is on it, but yeah, it's not like I'm using that a lot, to be honest. So yeah. Both of the weapons are primed, by the way. I'm not quite sure if I have mentioned that yet. I probably have, but yeah, just again, both of the weapons are primed. And really, when it comes to energy weapons, I feel like those are contestants for those weapons where priming your weapons is definitely the best option you can go for. Now, you can use these exact weapons with their standard receivers, but I really would advise you to go over to Ultracite ammo if you can afford it. The extra damage is great to have, and you definitely feel a significant difference. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't really think there's a whole lot else to say here. This is definitely one of those builds that's just very much driven by the overall appearance I wanted to go with, and not so much like any specific tweak or something like that. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it so far. By the way, I'm just looking around a little bit because usually I just forget some of the super mutants here, but on this occasion I'm pretty sure we are actually done, which I tend to say a lot and then super mutants just get around the corner or something, but anyways. So yeah, this was the gameplay part of the video, and now we're quickly going to take a look at our mutations and everything. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it so far, and let's take a look. Starting off with our mutations, not the world going on here. We do have Bird Bones, Healing Factor, Marsupial, Scaly Skin, and Speed Demon. So, yeah, Bird Bones is just nice to have on pretty much every single build, especially in Power Armor. I tend to use it a lot, not actually because I do need the agility for anything, but just for the reduced fall speed, so not every single jump I do with Marsupial will end in a stagger animation. When it comes to Healing Factor, it's one I personally like to use a lot. However, it's definitely not necessary by any means. Yeah, it's just personal preference. It's not necessary for this build. I just liked it to have some health regen whenever I get out of a fight. Most fights I don't need to use a stim pack, so ultimately, yeah. Whenever I end a fight with like 50% health or something, I can just wait for a few seconds and I'm back to 100%, or in our case more like 78% because we are quite irradiated, which I could take care of, but yeah, doesn't really matter at the moment. Marsupial and Speed Demon, those are pretty straightforward. Faster movement speed, faster reload speed, more jump height. I mean, I don't really feel like I have to talk a whole lot about that. It's pretty much standard for every build. And the last mutation that I have here is Scaly Skin, which gives us a little bit more resistances at the cost of some AP. And since we're only really using AP on this build for reducing damage through dodgy, and dodgy being, yeah, triggered regardless, like if it's 50 AP or 40 AP, yeah, I mean, the downside isn't really there, neither is the upside, because 50 resistances won't do a whole lot within power armor, but yeah, it didn't really hurt too much, and you can live without it if you want to, but ultimately you won't really notice if it's there or not, in my eyes. That being said, I think it's time to move over to our equipment. There's not a whole lot to say here. Basically, I have pretty much said everything. 250 damage resistance while reloading on this Ultracite Gatling laser, which, by the way, does look different while inspecting it here than it does look in-game. That's just a visual problem with the game. I think it existed forever, to be honest. Yeah. Back to the third effect, 250 damage resistance while reloading. It might as well would be a 2-star on this occasion, to be honest. But yeah, 250 damage resistance while reloading won't do a whole lot in power armor yet again, because resistance doesn't really matter too much here at our point. And yeah, reloading isn't really a big part of using this weapon. So the best effect here would definitely be like reduced weight or faster reload. But even then, yeah, reduced weight would definitely be my choice. Or, yet again, braking slower, so more durability as effect would also be great here. However, anti-armor faster fire rate is definitely my combination of choice on this occasion. I went for true charging barrels, which just give me superior hip fire accuracy, which is nice. Basically, you have better accuracy using this thing from the hip than when you aim down sights. Not that I'm not aiming down sights every now and then, but yeah. And other than that, I don't think I have to say a whole lot about the weapon. Just for information, I started the video with pretty much, yeah, with 100% condition on both of the weapons, so you can see how much we lost during the video. And other than that, we do have this here quad prime automatic ultracite laser rifle. As I said, quadruple ammo capacity, better limb damage, and braking slower. As I mentioned, I would have preferred quad faster fire rate, braking slower, but yeah, this is what we ended up with, and mainly the interesting thing here was quad. I have experimented a little bit with using an anti-armor version of the weapon. I also used a Furious version, but ultimately I found that, yeah, the benefit from having quadruple ammo capacity on this occasion was making the weapon most enjoyable for me, to be honest. And other than that, I do have an aligned automatic barrel, stabilized stock, beam splitter, and reflex sight, along with the prime capacitor. The only noteworthy mention here is I would have liked to use a stabilized automatic barrel, but I didn't have the necessary plan unlocked, and I also don't have the plan for the ultracite plasma pistol unlocked on this occasion, so I couldn't really just craft a bunch and learn the plan. So yeah, I went with the aligned automatic barrel keep in mind, if I would have used Stabilize, it would have even been a little bit more easy to handle the weapon, but ultimately I felt like it was good enough. And yeah, that's basically it. If you're interested with the Gatling laser, I think we haven't even depleted a whole fusion core. And with the laser rifle, we started with pretty much 10k. Like, maybe it was 10,200 ultracite fusion cells in the beginning of the video or something like that. So yeah, we basically ran through like 1,500 fusion cells, something like that. So yeah, it's definitely an emerald hungry thing here, but it's a lot of fun to use in my eyes. When it comes to armor on this occasion, basically the only thing I was looking out for is making a set with ammo weight reduction, so I don't have to use battery secluded on this occasion. That's basically it. I wasn't really interested in going with anything else. We do have autosim pieces. I think we do even have two: one exterminator's piece, one zealot's piece, and two aristocrat pieces. Sorry, one autosim, two aristocrats, which don't do anything here. We don't have enough caps. So yeah, I really didn't feel like I needed one specific set here. Go with whatever you like, whatever you feel you want to have. But you don't really need something. You could totally run this with a non-legendary power armor set. You would just need to make room for 3 more perk points, and that's it. But yeah, speaking about perk points, I should not have accepted that here. We're going to look through that. Obviously, strength is maxed out. This shouldn't be too much of a surprise. Now, maybe some of you have expected like strength 12 or something, but yeah. What I used it for is traveling pharmacy to reduce the weight of my chems. So not a lot to say here. Live without it if you want to. Definitely possible. But the interesting part here is the heavy gunner perks maxed out. And ultimately I went with blocker here just for some protection against melee enemies if they come through. But yeah, when it comes to the Gatling laser, I really don't feel like there's a whole lot of a benefit to stuff like lock and load. Faster reload isn't too necessary, and bare arms also felt like a little bit of a waste for just one weapon. Don't get me wrong, the weapon is heavy, but I would rather search out a version that has reduced weight on it as a legendary effect, and that's it basically. When it comes to perception, I only had room for 9 perception and went with rank 2 of all the commando perks and rank 3 of tank killer, so we're increasing our damage by quite a bit, and we have more armor penetration, which is nice, coming with a little bit of a stagger chance, which also works relatively well on the weapon in my opinion. Sorry. And yeah, ultimately, if you have access to more legendary perks, obviously max out the commando perks. That's a nice decision here. You could also go with ground pounder for a little bit more hipfire accuracy and faster reload, but I didn't really feel like it was necessary on this occasion. When it comes to endurance, not a whole lot of trickery here, just fireproof and life giver. This is a really standard combination for me. Fireproof, definitely the more important one here, and life giver 4 just because I wanted to have at least some mediocre endurance going on for some survivability, despite being in power armor. So yeah, I wanted to have some more points here, and life giver is just an easy choice, despite not being the best one probably, but yeah, ultimately that's what I went with. When it comes to charisma, I use tenderizer. This shouldn't be a surprise. Usually I always use tenderizer, but especially on this occasion it can be useful because at least it used to work like that, where tenderizer can be stacked if you hit an enemy multiple times at the same time, meaning if you use beam splitter weaponry or shotguns and the like. And on this occasion we actually use a weapon with a beam splitter, which is the laser rifle, and yeah, therefore we should get a 40% multiplicative damage bonus from tenderizer, which definitely helps on a relatively weak weapon like the ultracite laser rifle. Then we move over to intelligence, which is yeah, a little bit higher than most of our stuff here, but not by far. And yeah, just 11 intelligence is definitely not bad. We use it for power user. That's pretty important, just so we can get more bang for our buck when it comes to our ultracite fusion cores. And yeah, basically just keeps makes us use 1,000 shots rather than 500 per core. So yeah, whenever you use a Gatling laser or Ultracite Gatling laser, it's definitely the best choice to use power user. Then we do have Stabilized, another no-brainer for me, just more armor penetration for our Gatling laser and more accuracy, which is also great. And lastly, we do have Gunsmith. I mentioned that condition on our weapons is a little bit of a problem, so we might want to use something like Gunsmith to tackle that. When it comes to agility, despite not really using it for anything, we do have relatively high in, agility of 11, using Action Boy, Dodgy, and Adrenaline. Now, the combination of Action Boy and Dodgy is always great if you can use it. It's just really great, really great defense. And yeah, since we're not using our action points for anything else like VETs or so, Dodgy is definitely a good choice here. And lastly, we do have good old Adrenaline here, just because whenever you can make room for it, it should never really be missed from a build. And yeah, especially on a hybrid build, it doesn't hurt to have some, what's the word here? Some universal damage buffs like Adrenaline. So that's why that's here. And lastly, we do have luck of 8. So overall, you can see we have a relatively spread out special stats, which is rare. Most of the times I'm min-maxing a little bit more when it comes to my special stats, but on this occasion we're spread pretty evenly. Obviously there's some differences here and there, but with the exception of Charisma, there's not a single special stat that's like 1 or extremely high. And yeah, I used it for Bloody Mass. Pretty much everything I said about Adrenaline is true here. It's not a big buff, it's just 15% additive damage. It's not the world, but it doesn't hurt. Then we do have Star's Genes. Now this is a straightforward one. It has to be on pretty much every single character, with the exception of some very specialized ones. And lastly, I have Luck of the Draw. I already mentioned the condition problem, and Luck of the Draw helps us a little bit here. It's not really reliable, but it can help. Now, you do have better options or other options here. You could use either Tormentor or One Gun Army in order to have a crippling perk, which would definitely be useful in some situations, but ultimately I have decided that I didn't really feel like I needed it, and yeah, that's why Luck of the Draw was here on this occasion. And that leaves us with pretty much just our legendary perks and the boring ones right off the way. Legendary Perception, Intelligence, and Strength. These are all just here to give us access to a little bit more perk points, so not a lot to say here. Electric Absorption is just a superior choice of legendary perk whenever you are in power armor. Refilling your fusion cores when hit with a energy weapon, chance-based by the way, is definitely nice, but really the hidden effect of healing you is the more interesting thing. Nowadays they even say restore health. Yeah, so that's definitely the thing we want to have it for. And then I already mentioned it, we do have Ammo Factory here, which in my opinion, whenever I do use a build where I know I'm using weapons that go through ammo like crazy, I tend to just have it permanently in my loadout. I know it's not the world to every now and then switch it out and just use 2 perk coins to switch in Ammo Factory and switch it out again. But yeah, I like to have it permanently in there just for convenience. And lastly, we do have far-flung fireworks. Now, this is by no means necessary. The overall damage you're going to get from far-flung fireworks is not really good enough or reliable enough to justify it. It's just, for me, whenever I use it, it's basically just a little bit of a flavor thing to my build. So yeah, every now and then you can get lucky and within a group of ghouls have some lucky kills with it, but it's just fun to see some stuff explode every now and then. That's basically it. So yeah, overall, I think this wasn't too much of a crazy build. Like, as I saw there were no crazy tweaks or anything, but every now and then I do feel like such kind of a little bit more boring and grounded character, it does not hurt. And ultimately, I had a lot of fun with it. It's definitely one of those hybrids that I enjoyed, despite not really being the most useful one. But if you want to give it a try, just let me know how you felt it, or maybe you do run a combination of a heavy gunner and a commando. So in that case, I would be really interested to hear what your ideas are on it, or what your weapons of choice are. And maybe you even found some combination that gives you a little bit more of an interesting tweak. Like one thing I was really interested in doing was combining a plasma caster and a automatic plasma rifle, just so you have two different uses, like having one precise slow firing hard hitting weapon and one fast firing weapon. But ultimately I decided to go with this combination, and I don't really regret it. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, see you next time, guys. Bye.